Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for The Amazing Spider-Man issue 26. Yeah, crazy cover. Trying to figure out who is going to fall. And this has been spoiled for weeks upon weeks, and granted, I kind of tried to keep spoilers out. And also, hey, Into the Spider-Verse. Thought, hey, I got one of these. Why not be fun to use it in a review? So, we pretty much have an understanding of who falls before this kind of goes down, but it is interesting to see the context and how it kind of works out. Though granted, it is kind of weird of who dies, and mainly that they die in this instead of their own kind of series, so we'll see how that kind of falls out. So we shift, and we see 9 months ago, and we see Kamala Khan pretty much trying to get an internship at Oscorp. Let's see. Decent grades, talent in computer science, Oscorp's an engineering firm, and it seems like she left her name off her resume. And then they're like asking why she wants to work for Norman Osborn. She's become aware of his work, interested to learn what he's about, what he's doing here. She won't take no for an answer, or, I would rather not. So she's got spunk, and saying that, like, Mr. Osborn moves fast, think you can keep up, and that she'll do whatever it takes. So then we shift to New York City now, as everything is going to hell. Let's see, pretty much where we were at the beginning, well, not the beginning, but when we started going back in time to learn what was going on with MJ. We learned that the kids are with Paul, and that Norman pops in saying that he's got a team looking after them as well. And then he, of course, gets himself caught up on the situation. This is the dude from the other universe. He'll have to come through me. No arguments. MJ's like, who's arguing? We'll take all the help we can get. And we're glad to hear it because I'm here too. Sorry, that was a terrible entrance as Ms. Marvel pops up. And Spidey's like, Ms. Marvel? And then, of course, MJ's like, guys, and we see that Raven's like, you plunged the blade of decay into my heart. It brought me death, as it does to all things, but I was not afraid. I feasted on it. And so the decay took my life, but left a body prepared for a sacred purpose. I am the Black Road, the vessel of Wyatt. I will be reborn, the god of death. It's like, goddamn. All right, let's see how this goes down. This is some gnarly shit going on. Of course, Pete is in no mood shouting, you've ruined my life, and you'll regret coming back to my city. And then, of course, Robin's like, this is how it must be. Wyatt claws at the body that once held my soul, demanding I complete his ceremony. And then we see his body frickin' transforming even further, which the artwork really fucking conveys pretty well, because it's like, oh god, we're getting into body horror kind of territory, as he then kind of shifts and changes more to look like the form like Wyatt. And of course he's trying to go after the red one's heart and become a god, pretty much. And Norman's like, I heard enough of this shit, and just starts smacking in, and of course Ms. Marvel has to join in on that as well. It's like, yep. And then, of course, he's like, do you think you caught me unawares that I haven't prepared this sacred site? And we see that he, like, did a thing for a fucking dragon that pretty much pops out of, like, Central Park. He's infected the wilds with his symbology. My equations couched in glyphs powerful enough to bring forth life. And life is only the seed of death. And oh, how I hunger for death. And that's kind of crazy seeing it pop out of there and everything. Like, okay, you definitely are giving off Thanos vibes on that kind of stuff. And then everyone's like, that's a fucking dragon, and we should probably fucking deal with that. It's like, yes. Yes, please. And then, of course, Pete's like, Norman, on it. Keep comms open. And it's very interesting how I like seeing Norman in this kind of team dynamic. Because it does show his kind of shift from the Green Goblin, and that he's kind of more tactical. He understands and is trying to think things through. It's really weird. It kind of gives me vibes of kind of like Tony, Reed, and Doom. And granted, more along the Doom lines because of his propensity to, like, do fucked up shit. He's not kind of crazy, but like the usual kind of Green Goblin kind of way that's going on, but I do like seeing him in this team dynamic. And then, of course, Robin's like, "You still wear the bindings," and she's like, "What?" And of course, this family doesn't belong in the world. Not even your precious Paul. Did he tell you where he comes from? Who he comes from? And then, of course, we do another kind of little flashback as Pete pretty much comes in on MJ and Paul. Paul's like, "If you're gonna hit me, do it. I'm not gonna fight you. That was a tap, Paul. Believe me, that's why you could still walk. I'm not leaving until you tell me who you really are. You told us you worked with Dr. Rabin, so I checked you out. There's no record of you doing that. There's no record of you, period. How was it you survived for so long on that other world? How did you know so much about Rabin's work? Stop. You're not from here, are you? That other world is your home, isn't it? I can explain. What is your real name, Paul Rabin? Paul, Jeremiah Rabin." And of course, Pete's like, "What the fuck?" And we learn, it's like, okay, yeah, this is the bad guy. No, he's the emissary of his world. Stop it. He's a murderer, a monster. And then, of course, Paul's like, "That's enough," as he then clocks Peter. And then we learned that the emissary was his father. He trusted him, helped him do his work, not knowing what he really wanted. And by the time I found out, it was too late. There was no one in my world to save the day. And it actually makes you feel for Paul. Like, okay, this is a fucked up situation for, like, everyone involved. Like, I get Pete's anger at the situation, and he shouldn't be taking it out on, like, Paul or MJ, and I get Paul trying to, like, deal with all these kind of crazy things as well. It's a very interesting kind of thing of definitely balancing it where you're like, huh, I can kind of see all sides of this, and it kind of sucks for everyone involved. Because knowing your father is trying to, like, pretty much become a god of death, that'll fuck you up. And then he put an end to him with his own hands. And when you brought another emissary to my world, I did it again, and I followed MJ back to a universe where I was never born. That's why I like it here. Your father, you should have said something. You've been lying this whole time. No, he hasn't. Not to me. And then we learned that MJ knew about it. His guilt, his pain. I know that I know it's a part of what makes him a good man. Sound familiar? Pretty much lining it up to be similar to Pete. And it's like, alright. And of course we see that they're like, "Yeah, Robin, we already fucking know this shit. That ain't gonna work. Paul's not the only thing that comes from an emissary's line. You accepted my bindings, Red One. Bindings that tether us across time and space. Chains you held close to your heart. Chains that have served their purpose." And then he is making some crazy kind of looking kind of thing, goes, "Ayah!" and says something. And it's like, that's crazy looking. I fucking love the art. The art's really good here. Oh, and by the way, this issue is $4.99. It's a beefy fucking issue. And I think this works because it concludes this story. So we then shift over and we see Paul with the kids, and it is funny because we do get a kind of explanation for why they look like they do, and one of the Owen says, "I can hear the scribble man. Don't be silly, Owen. You're safe here. I feel funny, Daddy. I'm scared. No, it's okay. Come here. I've got you. No, 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 no." As we essentially have a Thanos stat moment as the kids are gone. Like, Rabin just made them to make them more of a family unit and to entrap Mary Jane so that way she can be his sacrifice. And we see Paul just freaking out. It's like, yeah, I get it, man. That's just fucking hard as shit. "Did you see yourselves in them? Did you think it was a sign that you should hold them tightly? What did you do? I see your face. You know what I did. As I drew the children in the sand, I wiped them away. I brought your babies home." It's like, fuck. That's nuts, man. That's a good explanation for the kids and what they were kind of used for. And at least it wasn't a crazy thing of like, it is baby Paul and baby Mary Jane, or some kind of weird, crazy, fucked up amalgamation. It was just pretty much brought forth by Rabin using the symbology and creating them from what he has been able to do. So I was like, okay, that's acceptable to me, and of course we can move on. It's not completely fucked up, or like the one Carol Danvers story, where it's like, I used you to create me, kind of shit. It's like, what? No, please God, no. And of course, this sets Mary Jane off as she starts trying to utilize her kind of things to, like, kill him. And she just blasts his ass into pretty much next week. And you got, I love the use of color, because I like the use of the pink for her kind of energy blast. And then it goes pink and then blue to kind of like get the boost. It's like, damn. Ms. Marvel's like, that was awesome. Rabbit is mine. MJ, you're the one he wants. And it's funny because now the scenario is reversed in that Pete's like, we gotta protect you because if you die, our world dies. And she's like, Rabbit's mine. No, we've got to be smart about this. You sure about that, Spider-Man? Why start now? As we get the Fantastic Four to help out, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, of course, Reed's like, Ben, that's not productive. It's like, yes, Pete's been a dick, but we got a Death God dude trying to become even more badass and pretty much trying to destroy the world. So we deal with what we deal with. And then Pete's like, I appreciate you all wanting to get your shots in, but we've got a giant monster right over there. Any reason you're here talking to me? Just one, dummy. We wanted to make sure you were okay. Oh, and I love that because it's Reed that said it. Normally you don't think of Reed being like that, but he does care for people. It's just hard for him. He expresses it in different ways. And I love that this writing team is able to nail down the Fantastic Four as well. And Pete's just little moment of that, of like, yeah, we're checking on you. You're a friend, even though you've been a dick. Maybe a thank you is more appropriate. Reed whipped together a flying car just to come help you. I'm sorry, I didn't. Look, things have been, well, I've been a good friend for many years. That's all that matters. And Reed saying that, Reed Richards, that's fucking great. I love that. Thank you. But yeah, the giant monster, we've got it. Go. And then he tells Peter to go. It's like, great, I'll grab MJ and, where's MJ? It's like, yeah, that was a good moment, but she went off. And then, of course, Rabbit's like, you faced me alone, such a good little sacrifice. And, I'm not a good little anything. Open wide. Damn it. Ha! Your symbols add up to healing light. It is an unreliable weapon. Yeah, that's what happens when you do an RNG-flavored kind of thing. Sorry, I don't like RNG. Fucking hate random number generators. Games have gotten me on that kind of shit, so I understand trying to have like a potent kind of weapon. It's just, oh, I totally get the bad luck on that. So he's pretty much getting ready to like kill her ass. And then saying that he only needs to Nick to call her spirit, as we see Ms. Marvel pop and be like, hey, how about no? And says, get away from my friend. And he's like, unhand me, as she like thunder punches his ass. Yeah, I'd say thunder punch, correct. And then Ms. Marvel's like, we can be friends, right? That was too close, MJ, and your powers are too unpredictable. You've got to get out of here. Absolutely not. And if he gets you, he becomes a god, floods the world with blood. Remember? But look, you didn't give me a choice when the shoe was on the other foot. You've got me there, and I love that. He hits her with it, and she fucking accepts it. Like, yeah, I fucked that. Yeah. Like, I really like it when a character is called on their shit, recognizes it, and be like, alright, fine, what do we do? Ms. Marvel's like, what about me? He gets his hands on Mary Jane, this entire world is his. You can't let that happen. Then I won't. I'm like, alright, let's see how this works. And then he says he'll hold him off, and Peter, it's Norman. This is going to sound crazy, but there's some kind of visual data stream coming out of this thing's mouth. Don't let them touch you. The symbols can change your meaning on a quantum level. What the hell does that mean? I love that. Norman's like, what? That's a problem. It'll turn you into a donut, potentially. Could I eat myself? But that's like, potentially not, I mean, granted, if you got turned into a donut, that would fucking suck. But that's like a basic level thing. There could be whole other kind of things. So it's like, no. Of course, Norman then starts getting screwed over. It's like, what? And it's like, shit. And then, we've got you, Osborn, coming in hot and orange. As Johnny pretty much shoots Ben like a fucking rock-ass bullet at the goddamn dragon's fucking head. God damn it, I love this shit. That's just like, yep, that'll work. So then we see Pete pretty much get some like weaponry and like, fuck you, asshole. You go ahead and get up, but fair warning, I'm gonna sit you right back down. And we know that he's going into like Spidey's quote-unquote serious quip mode of like, he'll do some quips, but he is here to kick ass, take names, and stop this shit. So there'll be some funny things, but he's not going complete. And then he's like, no, Sunblood, Way Up is impatient. His power grows inside me. I can see the future laid out in snapshots. The red woman pierced by my blade, dying in your arms. You sure? You might want to take a closer look. And smack. Damn. To get to her, you have to get through me, and that's not gonna happen. Space and time open before me. It already has, as he then, like, bisects himself, and it's like, ah, shit. And then, of course, he's, like, running around trying to find Mary Jane, so we shift back over to dealing with the dragon. Let's see. Norman pretty much gives the information to Reed. It's just like, just like any form of matter. That might not be necessary. How do you mean? Look out! As it's pretty much smacking the shit out of things, we see that Reed pretty much starts giving his explanation of what his plan is. And I gotta hand it to him, I'm also reading the Fantastic Four. And this lines up with how the Fantastic Four have been done there, and how Reed explains his concepts and everything. He's talking about how language never dies, that they evolved. If you introduce mutations to the glyphs, we could skip translation and move directly to, and Sue's like, Reed, honey, this is one of those times we've talked about, whatever you're explaining, just do it. Right. But see, that's the thing. Sometimes you got a dude that's got to, like, dude or dudette is got to, like, talk through their stuff and understand where they're kind of going from and how they kind of get there. Because sometimes you might have something in your head, but then when you start talking about it, you start opening up other pathways and everything. But Sue's like, nope, just do it. Johnny, think you can scorch this symbol into our friend's head? Reed, you're still the weirdest guy I know. And he's like, I love it. And then he just starts like torching it into the dragon's head. Let's see. It tells Ben that we might be done here. And then with that, he is able to kill the dragon with the symbol. It's like, I gotta love it. Like, Robin's been studying this shit all his life, and Reed's just like, wait a minute, what if I do this shit? And then he fucking kills a dragon like that. It's like, whoa. And then, of course, we start seeing that Robin's popping up. Ms. Marvel helps Mary Jane and smacks the shit out of him again. It's like, yeah, Kamala's doing some good-ass shit here. Talking about how she's like, hey, I promised your boyfriend. Spider-Man is not my boyfriend. Giant is down, Peter. We're doubling back. I need eyes on MJ. Now. We're on it. What are you doing? He came from anywhere. He can come from anywhere. We've got to split up. I'll try to distract him, but trust me. Don't stop running. Promise me. As we see Kamala leaving Mary Jane. And then we see that Norman and the Fantastic Four have a visual on Mary Jane. That they're trying to go in now. And Robin's like, ha, I've got you. Space and time lay before me. I am behind you. And it is already done. As we see Robin and a lich kind of thing as he stabs Mary Jane. And we see the blade doing its thing, saying that the sacrifice is made and that his ceremony is complete. And then Pete kicks him. And we're trying to see what's going on with MJ. And he's like, oh my god. And Pete's taking off his mask. And we see MJ say, Spider-Man? Talk to me. And of course Robin, I gotta love the art because it's just nuts, and the effective use of black and white of how it just gives so much detail of everything going on. And saying that, like, I am way out, the god of scab and bone, the world is mine to slaughter this, blasphemous priest, desecrator, no, I'm a loyal servant, I brought you the Scarlet Woman, no, as he then gets sucked in upon himself. And it's like, what the hell? And we see Mary Jane go, ha. And we see that Robin is dead because somehow it failed. Why did it fail? Got him. Wasn't sure I could still do that. Mary Jane, please. Peter? Who is that? Peter? Ms. Marvel? I've been working with Spider-Man? Haha. Guess I don't need this anymore. As we see that Kamala made herself look like Mary Jane. And that she got stabbed with the Blade of Decay. And then she takes off her mask and we see them kind of recognize each other, and it's really sad. And then he's like, Pete's just like, oh god, and she's saying that she's hungry, not healing, I think something's wrong, telling her to stay with him, and her saying Peter, asking if she did good. and him saying, she did great, you did so good, I'm glad, because good is, it's not a thing you are, it's a thing you, as she's trying to say it before she dies. And then we see everybody kind of looking on, and even Osborn just in shock. Ooh, over here. And it's just like, holy shit. As we're going through this, I was like, they really have to nail this, and I think that they nailed it pretty well, because even though it's really weird that she's dying in a Spider-Man comic, it's handled well because she was helping to protect and save the world. And it doesn't feel forced or cheap to me. Now granted, if other people feel that, I completely understand that, especially big fans of Miss Marvel. But this was like a hero's send-off, and hopefully they'll handle that with the kind of one-shot that they're doing. Yeah. And it's funny because Mary Jane asks if she's dead. Osborn's like, Kamala was Ms. Marvel? She wasn't interning, she was watching me. She was being a hero because that's what she was. It's like, yeah, Pete, yeah. And Osborn's just like, everybody working at my company is probably a superhero keeping tabs on me. Though granted, with all the shit you've done throughout the years, it should be expected. Then we see Paul come to tell Mary Jane about the kids. He doesn't even have to say anything as they both cry and hold each other. And then we just see the end there as everybody's just sad. And it sucks because they won, but at great cost. Ms. Marvel is dead. Mary Jane and Paul don't have the kids anymore. And it's just a dour note. But that's the conclusion of what we got with this story arc. It's like, it took a while to get there, 26 issues, but I do think the pacing could have been better. Not in this issue. I think this issue did a really good job of seeing the action, nice character and plot development moments, and then handling Miss Marvel fairly well, in my opinion. And if you don't agree with that, that's cool. I totally get that. And if you're a big Ms. Marvel fan, I totally get being like broken up about this and being like, why did this happen? It's like, oh, okay, she did it to protect Mary Jane, because that's what she said she would do. And she did it very well. Yeah. But thing is with the superhero comics is that you've at least got to have some crazy death and some kind of resurrection, so it's almost like a rite of passage from Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, to die and then come back at a certain point, and because every superhero's got that kind of thing at some point, so I don't think it undoes her sacrifice here of protecting the world and protecting Mary Jane from Wyatt and everything going on, but it's cool to see her kind of go through the more kind of hero's journey of making the ultimate sacrifice and seeing what will come of that and how that will affect characters, how that will affect Peter, Osborn, Mary Jane, Paul, the Fantastic Four even, and how it will affect the superhero community at large. And then when we potentially might see her come back, depending upon if they do that, or if they will somehow do another kind of thing where someone else takes up the mantle of Ms. Marvel and carries on her legacy. We'll see. There's a lot of different avenues, but I liked that we got the conclusion of this arc. I do think that how it was handled is that I didn't really care that much for Dark Web. Now granted, I didn't read it, but I think it put stuff that was going on that just detracted from this and like lengthened out certain kind of pacing issues that were already kind of going on. Now granted, and there just needs to be a balance. I think it took a little bit longer to get to the plot information that we needed about Paul and Mary Jane and what did Peter do and everything like that, and then finally getting to the important bits of like way up and actually dealing with Robin and fighting him and defeating him in such a way. So we'll have to see how this kind of works out with this creative team and where the next kind of story arcs will go. The next kind of ones that we've seen, we'll be dealing with, like, I think Doc Ock and like Craven or whatnot, and all the things that can happen from that. We've also got the wedding that's going to be going on with Tombstone's daughter. There's a lot of different kind of stuff that could go on. We'll see how this kind of works out, but if the plot issues don't become a regular thing, well, plot pacing issues, I think we could have a pretty good run here. Now, granted, at least in my opinion, if you haven't been enjoying this and haven't been liking this, I totally understand that and can get where you're coming from on that. But I liked how Peter and everybody was handled. It'll be interesting to see if we get any kind of plot developments where Pete actually goes and makes amends to, like, Cap, Fantastic Four, Tony, all the rest. Like, if he does essentially an apology tour where each issue he kind of goes and helps someone with something else, that would actually be really kind of cool and definitely in line with Pete, because he'd feel the guilt, he's responsible, and he wants to make amends for it. I mean, granted, it's crazy situations. We'll see what goes on. But I really enjoyed this issue, and I'm glad that we got to a conclusion that worked, in my opinion. So those are my opinions on this issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.